Thank you, Ed. I am your hostess, Mitzi Perdue, and in view of the fact that I want you to spend as much time as possible listening to our speakers, my introduction is going to be very, very short. But what I'm going to do is, I want to introduce to our guests of honor some of the people who are in his audience. John, I'm going to ask people to raise their hands if they meet the following criterion. How many people came from a 2-hour drive to get here? A 3-hour drive? A 4-hour drive? 5 hours? Trains counts? Yes, totally. I understand, I've been told that somebody came from Boston. Possibly some people from Washington? Okay, John, that's my way of telling you that there are a lot of people who came a long way because we want to honor you. And as I promised you that this was going to be a very short introduction, I think most of you already know our MC, Ed Schloeman.
Thank you, Mitzi, so very, very much. Good God, what brave fellows I must to stay loose. That was said 237 years ago, not far from here, when George Washington made his withdrawal, and he left back 400 volunteers from Maryland, all knowing that they would either die or be captured by the British. Good God, what brave fellows I must to stay loose. Very strong words today, still. Today we lose these brave fellows by their own hand. We lose them not from battle, but from their own despair. These fellows are men and women, veterans, service members, and first responders. Our mission with Operation Warrior Wellness is to heal the hidden wounds of war, PTS. We lose one veteran every 65 minutes in this country. We lose almost one a day in the active duty community. Also, police, firefighters, and other first-line responders are increasingly called upon in situations that can be situated just like combat. Needless to say, what 9/11 did to us, Boston did to us, stressful situations as equally stressful as combat. The war comes to them in many ways. The caregiver from what he or she sees every day, a first responder answering the call, a wife or husband of a disabled veteran that never signed up when they got married to take care of that veteran coming back from horrible wounds that they have experiences. All have those hidden wounds from experiences that leave an impression that is very, very hard to overcome. Our minds take pictures, and those pictures relate to thoughts, sometimes not so pleasant. Operation Warrior Wellness is so privileged to partner with so many great organizations in our country, naming the USO, the Wounded Warrior Project, the U.S. Army, most recently in Fort Hamilton, the United States Marine Corps in Camp Pendleton, Norwich Military Academy, one of the oldest military academies in the United States, which is mandatory to bring meditation into the young students, learning how to become future warriors. But especially, we are proud, and I am so proud, to be associated with our local heroes, our fire department of New York. Please let us welcome some of these first responders who are here today and enjoying our program. And they always are hiding in the background. Captain Gorilla, Lieutenant Video, Lieutenant Childs, and Fireman Andriano. And when I first told them to look into meditation, what it has done, in their own Staten Island verbiage. I can't repeat today. But honest to God, they just love every part of the meditation skills, and it is helping to heal those hidden wounds that they have seen every day. We're here for a few reasons tonight. It is to ask those of you who may wish to join our board as advisors. Why? We're growing too fast. The New York area is taking more on with scholarships, whether it's the fire department, the first responders. We need help. I need the leadership skills of some of you in this room to help. So those that may be interested, please see me after the presentations and we can exchange business cards and business ideas. Dr. Cancro and Bob Roth will discuss tonight the Black Plague of the 21st century, and that is called stress. And lastly, we're here to honor a wonderful New Yorker for his many years of supporting veterans, first responders, and our military, Mr. John Catsimatidis. But first, let me show you a little video of one of our success stories, Luke Jensen, a SWAT team member from the Police Department of Iowa, and also an MP in Afghanistan. Can we show that?
Both my grandpas served in the military, one in the Marine Corps, one in the Navy. I always kind of thought that might be something I might do, and I also knew I wanted to get into law enforcement. The strategy worked well. I was able to do military police with the Army Reserves, and I was hired on with the police department. I became a deputy. I was a member of the SWAT team, and the last 2 years of my law enforcement career worked undercover narcotics full time. It was an exciting career for me, and I got to accomplish a lot of goals that I had. And then in 2009, I got deployed to Afghanistan, and that was a whole different situation. There's a lot of artillery fire going on at night. Sirens going off a lot at that base for rocket attacks. It was hard for me to ever wind down or get some sleep and get some rest. First week I was there was 3 soldiers that got killed there. And I just kind of thought, I'm not going to make it home. And I got to the point where that took over.
As a military police, he investigated the death of a child that was about the age of our oldest daughter, Libby, and I know that was incredibly hard.
Just knowing that there was a dead young girl that was close to my daughter's age there, felt like I was in a pretty bad, helpless situation, and I slowly just downward spiraled into the point where I thought, well, if I'm not going to make it home, why continue to be miserable every day? And I started thinking about suicide, and it seemed to be a resolution.
He had told me, I'm gonna shoot myself, and he goes, Abby, I was sitting there with a gun, and he said I was shaking so bad I had my finger on the trigger, and that the ranger pulled up right next to him. He said 2 soldiers were in it. They just sat next to him, never looked at him, but he had enough respect, and he would be ashamed to shoot himself in front of another soldier that he put his gun down and he drove off. So that's what led to him being met back out of Afghanistan.
What I thought when I finally got back into the United States is that everything's going to be okay now. But my problems continued even long after I was released from active duty. I continued to feel that way. We did individual counseling, we did group counseling. I tried 5 or 6 different kinds of depression medicine. They had me try 2 or 3 different kinds of anxiety medicines. When I continued to try and things weren't helping, hopelessness really was taking over and it wouldn't go away. I still continued to think almost daily that suicide was going to be the option.
It was a typical Friday. He had slammed his 6-pack very, very fast so he could sleep that night. He was self-medicating. I didn't realize till later that he took too many pills, and he couldn't speak clearly. He couldn't stand up straight.
And I put a loaded .45, my pistol, to my head in front of my wife and young daughter and said I was going to kill myself.
And I had no idea at that time that, things were that bad emotionally for me. I thought that once we had gotten him home, that suicide wasn't an issue.
The next day, couldn't believe that I'd behaved that way in front of my children, and it crushed me. I knew that I had crossed the line and I needed help. For the first time in I don't know how long, I felt hope, because I had felt so hopeless. I had tried so many things that hadn't worked for me. It's helped me out tremendously with my depression and blood pressure. I don't take anxiety medicine at all anymore.
This is the true Luke. This is the happy Luke that I knew when he was young and we could laugh and have fun and life was wonderful. And that's where he's at again. And he's opening up, he's telling his story to help others, and it's not causing him the anxiety, the fits, the sleepless nights. I mean, things are better than they were before he went to Afghanistan.
Transcendental meditation's about giving you a better quality of life. You're gonna feel better in every aspect of what you're doing.
He made a pledge and he goes, I'm going to meditate twice a day. And he goes, I promise you, because that was so amazing. He goes, I really think this is going to work and I'm going to stick with this and see if this is one thing that helps us. And it ended up being the thing that changed us.
I had consistently thought about suicide before I learned TM. It was the first thing to kind of get that away and get that off my mind.
I don't know that Luke and I would be together. I don't know that Luke would be here if we didn't have TM. Life changing, and did save his life without a doubt.
And if you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for the people that love you, because they deserve it. My girls didn't sign up for the Army, and neither did my wife, and that's made me a better father, a better husband. I finally found what fit for me, and it was TM, and it changed everything.
Is a very strong man physically. If you stood next to him, you'd be intimidated. About 2 months ago, Luke works for the VA system in Iowa as a mentor. And 2 months ago, one of his students committed suicide. It really hurt him very much. So this is an ongoing battle that we have against the epidemic of suicide in our military and first responders. But tonight, I'm very happy to meet our guest of honor. Mr. John Catsimatidis is, you know how many long I practiced that? As chairman and CEO of the Red Apple Group, John grew up in New York City after coming to the United States from Greece and went on to become a very, very successful businessman who has never forgot his Greek heritage nor his love for New York City. That's why he's running for mayor. And I can't say any more about him. He's married to Margot, and they have 2 children, Andrea and John Jr. I'd like to give a small token to John, which is a flag that flew over Fort Hamilton, the first site of the Battle of the Revolution. And it's signed by the commanding officer, General Lynch, and it's given with much respect to you, John. So may I ask you to come up and say a few words? Well, come on over, we'll take a few shots and then let John say a few words. Please,
Mitzi, why don't you come up with us now?
Mitzi, please. She wants one. All right, thank you.
I'm going to keep it to very, very few words. I'm a member of the Board of Soldiers and Sailors here, in addition. We have to take care of our veterans. And I'm not sure, I've had complaints that the city is not doing enough to take care of our veterans. Is that true?
Absolutely.
And you have my commitment that when we become mayor of the city of New York, that we will be committed to our veterans, to to the full extent of my power as mayor. The other thing, it's just sad to see that these people are not getting the help they need. It's very sad. I grew up during the era of the Vietnam War. I had, in '66, I had the congressional nomination to West Point. And I was an only child, and my mother cried, and my father cried, and they didn't want me to go, so I didn't have the privilege of going. But I support all of our soldiers that take time out of their lives to serve our country, the greatest country in the world. You're doing God's work, because our country has turned out to be the protector of the world. We are the protector of freedom for the whole world. And no, it's nobody else. We're number one, and there is no number two. I don't know where Russia is these days, number 3, 4, 5, but it's certainly not number 2. I love the city of New York. I grew up here. I believe that we have to make sure we maintain our rank as the Empire State. My commitment, I came here as an immigrant. I was 6 months old. But my grandfather came in 1913. So I'm celebrating 100 years this year since my grandfather came through Ellis Island. He left my father in the old country to take care of his sisters and take care of his mom, and couldn't come here until after World War II. The islands we were from were under slavery to the Turkish Empire. Then from 1904, they were liberated. From 1904 to March 7th, 1947, they were part of Italy. And my father was an Italian citizen. He worked very hard for the Italian government. He watched the lighthouses in his area. And he lived on a piece of rock for 16 years. That's what you call sacrifice. You know what I tell my Italian friends? I was born in September, and since it was part of Italy till March 7th, 1948, I was conceived an Italian, but born a Greek. We all fight for our country, but I'm going to fight very hard for our city. We have been winning the last 20 years. We will not give the streets back to the hoodlums. I support Ray Kelly, who has done a great job as far as not only protecting us from the hoodlums in the streets, but also running his own terror protection force, where he's double-checking the federal government and the people trying to protect us in Washington. Ray Kelly has his own force, and we have been safe since 9/11, and we can't give back those streets. The other thing I mentioned to one of the reporters coming in before, Gracie Mansion. I do not plan to move into Gracie Mansion. I believe Gracie Mansion is meant for the people, to serve the people. And Gracie Mansion, under my administration, do breakfasts, lunches, and dinners for the various people that need help in New York City, the various charities, and we're going to raise the most money ever raised in New York City for all the organizations. I owe New York. It's given my family a great life. It's given me a great family. And thank you for coming by. I don't want to take too much of your time, but thank you for inviting me. And you have my commitment, and thank you, Mitzi, and thank you. You have my commitment to do whatever is needed to help our soldiers. Thank you very much.